All the guys, can I ask you to very quickly move over to the chairs over there, and we'll. Now, I'm conscious of time because if we're not careful, we're going to drift and drift. So, what I think it might be useful to do is to open up the panel questions to the floor, because I'm sure some of you will have some specific questions. Can we do that? Hands up who would like to ask the guys a question. Far away. Now, you might have to project. Right, we have a microphone.
Hi, it's a question.
Are we on with this, Mike?
It was a question for John. You mentioned it yourself. I just wondered if you had any idea how GroupM might bring the same level of accountability in terms of viewability to their brands when looking at offline campaigns. So you mentioned it, TV spots that were being shown to empty rooms while people were in the loo and the like. Is there any plans for that similar accountability?
Of course not. It's a good question. I think we're trying to steer away from that. When clients have this conversation and say, "Wow, didn't realize that half of our ads weren't viewable," what we say is, "Look, viewability is not a new issue. It's a little bit, as I said on stage, but let's focus on the measurability of digital where we can perform better." Which turns the conversation into a positive conversation rather than a defensive conversation, which says, well, hey, it's not just us who's not viewable, it's the other guys too. I don't think you can measure viewability in the other media in the same way, but you will soon, because when I say soon, it's relative, of course, everything will be digital. So as soon as everything is digital and as soon as you're able to tag everything, you'll be able to measure viewability exactly like you can measure viewability in digital. But let's use it as a positive reinforcement for digital right now to say, because you can measure so precisely in digital, we can measure viewability. And then as soon as we're able, as soon as the other media are fully digital, we'll measure viewability there.
Thank you. Anybody else? Yep, at the back. Yeah.
Thanks. Ben, I thought your presentation was brilliant and addressed a lot of the challenges we face. A question really for John. I think it's a bit unrealistic to expect publishers to push back on file size for advertising. What are you doing with creative agencies to make sure that latency isn't happening? Because quite frankly, I don't think publishers will be able to solve that issue, and I think that's down to clients and to agency groups to resolve that.
I'm sorry, I didn't quite understand what the issue was.
Latency with file
latency.
sizes for advertising. I think it's very difficult for publishers to push back at creative agencies because generally we don't have that contact with them in the same way that agency groups do.
Got it. No, it's a great point, and our US publishers make the same point. Are you all familiar with the IAB's lean scoring system? I'm sure you are. One of the things that I'm on the steering committee for the Council of Better Ads, and one of the things that we're pushing very hard for is a lean scoring system, not just for publishers, but for agencies as well, so that there will be a scoring system for a published scoring system for an agency that keeps on delivering ads that are over-tagged, bad targeting, bad tag hygiene, and large ads, and so that the AOP or the IAB can go to agencies and say, hey guys, please will you play ball? It's not just on one publisher, but if one agency keeps on defaulting, then I could get a call from Randall Rothenberg, who's the head of the IAB, and says, please won't you bring agency X in line? It's obviously it's tougher because they're clients of yours. But if we bring the subject to the fore, it'll help. What I've promised is that I will take that issue to all of our WPP creative agencies and help them understand the role that they're playing in ad blocking. And it's not just that, of course, but it's also bad tag hygiene, poor targeting, bad frequency management that adds to the ad blocking area. So we as agencies have to behave more responsibly, and I think that the agency associations and the industry need to put pressure on ourselves to do so. But don't be afraid to push back as well. I mean, agency can always say no, but if you can say this is causing ad blocking, which is not in your interests either, I know it's a tough conversation, but we have to have it.
Okay, thank you. I think we've probably got time for one more, and then I want to ask the guys a quick question. Ben.
So I just asked, seeing as I'm right here. So thanks very much, very interesting. I have a question that's related to a famous quote by Einstein that you may be familiar with. You might be able to guess which one it is. So that quote was, not everything that is measurable is important, and not everything that is important can be measured. So it's a question for all three of you. What in the interaction between the brand and the user is actually important, but actually cannot be measured, in your opinion?
I would say, in terms of interaction between the brand and the user, what's the end goal for the brand? Is that what you're referring to, or?
I'm asking the question. We have the most important thing. I have a very firm view on what the most important thing is, but I don't want to say it out loud because then I'm answering my own question. But on what cannot be measured today, what is the reaction that you want from the consumer in a way that cannot be measured today?
So I mean, maybe I can try. I think it's a very good discussion. It's a very good philosophical discussion, but I think it needs to start with. So let's say that brand recognition, maybe predisposition to purchase, maybe goodwill, all of that a brand has to build up over many years. If I'm buying a Mercedes-Benz and I'm 50 years old, what has contributed to me buying that Mercedes-Benz may have started when I was 13, when I first pushed my nose against the window of a showroom, and everything has been, motor racing and all these sorts of things add to that. But it has to start with something physical, because if an ad can't be seen, it can never contribute to that. And so I think that what we're saying is it has to start with what can be measured, but at the same time acknowledge that there's an enormous, Jeremy Bullmore famously said that brands are built like birds build nests with scraps and straws they chance upon, something like, I'm sure I messed it up, sorry Jeremy. But that's how brands are built. But it has to be if an ad is not seen, it can't contribute to that at the end of the day. And I think what we're trying to do is we're trying to redefine what an impression is, because before an impression was an ad that was served and we paid for it. We know that many things happen between a served and a viewed ad. So we're saying before an ad can contribute to the brand being built in the same way as you're saying, it has to be seen. And let's start there with a better definition. But I completely acknowledge that this doesn't end there. Oh, and the other thing I would say too, because you're all publishers in this room, is I think you should be clear what you're responsible for. And I think you're responsible for a fair opportunity to see. I don't think you're responsible for brand engagement, my opinion. The ad's responsibility is to be a great, impactful ad, impactful as opposed to invasive, but a great, impactful ad is what takes it further than that. But your job is to put the ad in front of the consumer for a fair amount of time and in frame. That's it. Then you should get paid. The agency and the client and the brand and the creative agency's job is to make that ad engaging.
Okay, thank you. Just conscious of time, I just wanted to ask the panel. Group M, you're starting to launch the standards. You're introducing standards. AOP, this is an AOP conference. What should the viewability standards for the AOP look like? Ben, can I start with you?
So what should be the maximum viewable standards or the optimum viewable standard?
The optimum viewable.
The optimum viewable standard. So from research that I've read more recently, it sits around 15 seconds. But I feel like there's more of a conversation around how long all of the advertising's in view for. So you could say, okay, we'll have an ad and we'll refresh it every 15 seconds, but actually, if that ad was there for 3 minutes, would it still have a benefit or a brand association benefit? Probably. So I feel like we're probably moving towards a time in view metric.
Okay, and Paul, the data that you see, does that?
I'd agree, and I'll go back to my previous comment about looking at things from a user level. So rather than just looking at viewability at a campaign level, thinking from a publisher, what is the optimal number of ads to show to a particular user based on a campaign, and what is the optimal amount of time to show an ad to that user before that ad starts to lose impact or even begins to sort of annoy the user. So I think we need to sort of move away from just looking at viewability as just a performance metric and tie it back to user-based metrics.
Okay. We know what you're pointing at as Group M.
Can I make a point about the group? So the Group M standards were the standards that we put on there, which are more robust than the MRC standards. The viewability standards, which are the most robust, is really there for premium video, which is emulating the television. So it's, most of the clients who will be moving big money across from brands will be moving them from television. That's where your biggest opportunity lies. And that's what clients feel comfortable with. But what we will also acknowledge is there's new video, Snapchat, Twitter video, I nearly said Vine, of course, unfortunately not, but the 2-second vertical, the news feed, all of those things, those viewability standards, we really don't know what the correct viewability standards are for scrolling media yet. So we will acknowledge that there's a lot of discovery, there's still a huge amount of discovery to figure out, well, if an ad is 100% in view, but it can be scrolled away in a microsecond, it can be flicked away in a microsecond, is that a viewable ad? Well, probably not. So what constitutes it? So there's still a lot of discovery to happen, particularly in the mobile environment. And of course, the mobile environment is the environment for the future, particularly with Facebook now being 85% mobile, Twitter being 82% mobile. So we still have some discovery to do, but as you say, I think that there will be different standards from some of the agency groups, and I do believe that Integral and Moat and Double Verify are very adaptable in terms of measuring different things, but we probably do need to come to a sort of a fair range of standards for us to be manageable.
Okay, fantastic.